Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video I want to show you guys how to draft a full length corset with a Queen Anne neckline. Then I'll also show you guys how to cinch the waist for a corset. This is the first part of this series on how to sew an inbuilt corset with inseam finishing. So we're going to start with drafting the pattern. The first thing I'm going to do is draft the basic bodice block. So I'll just go ahead and mark the bust point, the under bust point, and the half length on both sides of the paper and mark this out. The bust point I'm using for this tutorial is 12, the under bust is 17, and the half length is 20. So this is a corset for a big bust. I understand that this is something that a lot of people have an issue with, because there are some things you need to take into consideration when doing a corset for a big bust. So this video is going to break it down for you guys. After marking this in two places, I will go ahead and use my ruler to connect the points together, and this will give me a straight line. After doing that, I'll go ahead and mark the full corset length. This is usually the same as the full blouse length. So wherever you want the corset to stop, that is what you're going to take here. And I'm using the blouse length of my client as the corset length. So this is going to stop right on top of the hips. And I also go ahead and mark that line out. The next thing I'm going to do is take the shoulder measurement. The shoulder I'm working with is 17 inches. So 17 divided by 2 will give me 8.5. So I'll just go ahead and mark 8.5 here. The next thing to do is to mark out the armhole. To get the armhole, you either use the shoulder divided by 2 or the bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. That is the armhole measurement. Then what you're going to do is add another 1 inch as the shoulder slant allowance. So if your armhole is 8, you're going to be marking out 9. That is plus the shoulder slant allowance. So I went ahead to first of all mark out the 1 inch slant allowance. Then from there I took the armhole measurement of 8.5. I'll go ahead and measure this at the edge of the paper as well, so that I can get a straight line. After marking out the total on both sides of the paper, I'll go ahead and connect it with a straight line, and this will be the chest line. So guys, the next thing to do is to draw out the armhole line. I will not be marking out the shoulder slant yet because there are still some adjustments that will be done here. So I'll just connect the armhole line first. To do that, I'll first of all measure the shoulder measurement on the chest line so that I can get a straight line. So I just marked the shoulder measurement on the chest line and used the ruler to connect the points. But I will not be extending it past the shoulder slant mark, so I just stopped right here. Okay, I'm going to just leave that side as it is. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark out the standard front neck measurement, which is 3 by 3. So I'll come and mark 3 inches here and then 3 inches this way as well. Since it is 3 by 3, I can also mark 3 at the midpoint because all of the points are equal, okay? If you are using something different for both sides, you cannot do this. So with this mark, I'll be able to draw the neckline properly. So you can use freehand for this or use the curved ruler to connect all of the points together. Over here, I'm using my armhole curve to draw out the neckline. So guys, this is the neckline for the front. The next thing to do is to take out the shoulder slope for the front. So guys, remember that it was 1 inch that was added to the armhole as the shoulder slant allowance, right? Okay, that's what I explained. But there's something extra that you have to do for this front to give a better fitting, and that is to add 1/2 inch to the shoulder slant measurement. I know this was not added to the armhole measurement to give allowance, okay? this half of an inch that is being marked will not be replaced. So the chest line for the front will still be the same chest line for the back. I just added that half of an inch to the shoulder slope and connected it to the neckline, okay? So this is how that part is going to be. We're not shifting this chest line area by half of an inch. It's going to remain the way it is. It is only for the 1 inch out of the 1.5 inch slope that will be accounted for. The remaining half of an inch will just be taken off and not replaced. So guys, the next thing to do is to mark the bust span area. And then I'm going to mark this on the bust point line. Remember that the front bust span stops at the bust point line, not the chest line. So I'm just marking this at the bust point, the half length and the blouse length, so that I can connect this in a straight line. The bust span I'm working with is 8 inches. 8 divided by 2 will give me 4. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect this way. So guys, after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to take the full body measurements. That is the roundness, the bust roundness, waist roundness, hip roundness, or blouse length roundness. So I'm going to start with the chest line and the bust point line. Whatever I have at the bust point is what is going to be at the chest line as well. So the bust points I'm working with is a bust 44. 44 divided by 4 will give me 11. That's what I also marked at the chest line. And then I'm going to come to the waist. The waist measurement I'm working with is a waist 38. So waist 38 divided by 4 will give me 8.75. You can use your tape rule to calculate this. So you first of all fold it into 2 and then into 4, and then you get what you need to mark on the bodice. So I mistakenly marked this on the under bust, but I went ahead to also mark this at the half length. That was a mistake. The waist measurements will be taken at the half length line. Okay, so this is it. The next thing I'm going to do is to take the roundness of the corset. So one thing you can use for this is the hip roundness divided by 4, or the upper hips roundness, but I always recommend measuring the roundness of where you want the blouse to stop so you can get an accurate fit for that. The measurements I'm using for this is the upper hip roundness, since that is where the corset stopped. So the roundness is 44. 44 divided by 4 give me 11, which is what I marked there. What I'm going to do now is connect all of the points together, starting from the top part here. This will be connected with a straight line, since it's what is at the chest line, that is at the bust point line. Then I'll connect from here to the half length, and from the half length to the corset length. After doing that, the next thing to do is to draw out the armhole curve. So to do this, for the front pattern only, you're going to come to this chest line and come up by 3 inches. From that 3 inches mark, you will go in by half of an inch, and this is going to be the guide for drawing the armhole curve. So from this half of an inch point to the shoulder point, we are going to connect it using a straight line. As you can see me doing on the screen, I'll just connect it this way. And then from this half inch mark to meet with the bust point mark, that is the one at the chest line, to meet with the chest line measurement, basically, we are going to use a curve ruler. And note that you will place this ruler in a way that it will blend in with the straight line that has been drawn above. Okay, so the way I'm placing the ruler, this is kind of blending in slightly. So that's how you know that you have placed the ruler correctly. So I'll just go ahead and draw out the curve. After doing that, the next thing to do is to come to this shoulder area here and measure what is there. So I'm going to come to the shoulder area and measure what I have and divide it into 2. So this is going to serve as a guide for connecting another line from the shoulder point to meet with the bust point line. So I'll go ahead and use a straight ruler to connect the bust span line to meet with this shoulder point that I have marked. So this is going to serve as the basis for the over bust suppression. That's why it's important to mark this line out. Okay, so guys, this is the basic bodice block. The only thing that have not been added is the darts and covering the side of the blouse. So guys, next thing that I'm going to do is the under bust and the over bust suppression. Okay, so before you can do the over bust suppression, you have to determine how much cleavage you want to show. If you're using the chest line, you're definitely going to have cleavages showing, but if you want to reduce that, you have to come up by a few inches. So I actually came up by 2 inches, but here I was just measuring the cleavage depth, which is from the shoulder to where the cleavages won't be showing on your client's body when you take the measurement. So guys, I came up from 2 inches by the chest line, and then I marked that out. So it is on this line I'm going to do the over bust suppression. Notice that you can do this at the chest line as well, but that just depends on you. It is completely up to you. Okay, and then what I'm going to do first is the under bust suppression. And to do this, the maximum you can take off the center front is 1 inch at the under bust area. Please take notes, between 0.5 and 1 inch, nothing more. If not, the fitting is going to be kind of weird. You won't really like the fitting basically. So I will come to the center front at the under bust and mark 1 inch. So this 1 inch is what's going to be at the center front, and I'll go ahead and mark 1.5 inches towards the side front. So which means that I've taken out a total of 2.5 inches for the under bust suppression. The bust I'm working with is a bust 44. The minimum you can take for a bust that large is 2.5 inches. I always recommend 2.5 inches. Anything less than that and the curve won't really come out, but if that is what you are going for, then that's fine, you can use that. Okay, but for this I'm going to be using 2.5 inches, and for a bust 45 and above I recommend using 3 inches. Occasionally I use 3 inches as well, so I just take 1 inch towards the center front and I take the rest at the side front. So the next thing to do is the over bust suppression. The one taken at the over bust is not as much as the one taken at the under bust, because majority of the fullness of the bust is at the under bust area. So I'll come to the center front here and I will mark 1 inch on both sides, which means that I'm taking a total of 2 inches from the upper bust area, okay, also known as the over bust. So I just took 1 inch on both sides, and that will be all for this. I just decided to add another extra 0.25 inch to make sure that the curve is sitting well and there is no gaping at the neck. So you can decide to add an extra 0.25 inch towards the side front, but it's not compulsory if the bust you are working with is not very big. And also please take note that this technique works for every bust size. Okay, the only difference is that you are going to need to take the front half length and the back half length into consideration. Okay, so to connect this, you are going to use a straight line for the upper bust area. It always has to be connected with a straight line. So I'm connecting this straight to the bust point line. You can come up by 1/2 inch as well. That is also correct because I've explained that method also on my channel before. So anyone you see is correct. Don't get confused. The whole idea is to just make sure that there are no sharp edges, which you can also prevent without having to mark 1/2 inch above and below the bust point line. And then for the under bust area, I'm going to use a curved ruler to connect the points together to meet with the bust point line. I noticed that the curve for the side front wasn't as obvious as I wanted it to be, so I went ahead to add an extra 0.25 inch towards the side front. And then I'll use my curved ruler to connect the points together. So make sure that you're not using the extremely curved parts of the ruler. You can see the way I placed my ruler, right? So that's how you want yours to be. And then I'll just draw a curve and do the same thing for the other side. Alright guys, so this is how you want your curve to be looking like. It's looking very fine. I just went ahead to smooth out the edges so that there will be no sharp points. And by smoothing this out, I cut off 0.25 inch. You can go ahead and replace that here, but I won't be replacing it. Okay, so that's completely up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and copy what I have on the underbust. When I took out from the underbust, I will go ahead and also mark this at the waistline and at the corset length and just extend the line straight down with a straight ruler. So guys, after doing that, next thing to do is to replace what I've been taking off the waist and off the corset length. I know that we are still going to cinch this waist, but for now, just take your actual body measurements. I'll still show you guys the waist cinching technique. So what I took off the waist, which is 2.75, I'll go ahead and replace that and also do the same thing at the corset length. Now there's one thing I need you to pay attention to, and that is at the underbust line, okay? So you know that the underbust also have its own measurements. That's the underbust roundness, right? So what you're going to do is take your underbust roundness and you're going to make sure that what you have at the underbust is exactly the underbust roundness. I didn't really show you guys this part, but I was explaining it. So let me just explain it for you guys to see. The only thing I need to take off the underbust to make is the underbust roundness is 1 inches. Okay, so the extra 1.75 inch I added is to make sure that I form a proper cup, which is why I said that the underbust tightening technique cannot work for everybody. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. So the only thing I'm going to be replacing is the 1.75 because I need to take off 1 inches from the underbust measurement to make it to be the actual underbust roundness. Normally, when you connect from the bust point line to meet with the half length, you are adding an excess already to the underbust. So that is what usually have to be taken out. Now that's called the underbust tightening. But I took more than what I needed to take out because 1 inch is definitely not enough to form a proper cup, okay? Because this is a big bust I'm working with. So it is only 1.75 inch that I replaced from the underbust, not the entire 2.75 inch. So please take note of that. So what I have to do next is to connect everything together. But before I connected it together, I went ahead to take out the side bust dart and close it so that I can get an accurate line. So what is the side bust dart? The side bust dart is the dart that is taken off to make the front half length and the back half length to align. So the front half length and back half length is what is very important to take note of when working with a big bust, okay? And the front half length is 2 inches longer than the back half length, which means that the side bust dart will be 2 inches wide, okay? I'm going to mark that and connect this back to the bust point. So this is one important thing to take note of when working with a big bust because the bust has already taken up a lot from the front half length already, so it can't be compared to the back half length. The back half length will definitely be shorter. So I suggest you tie a tape around the waist and then take the front half length and the back half length to get an accurate measurement, okay? So guys, I've taken out the side bust dart, which is taken below the bust point line. You place your tape at the bust point and then come down by whatever the difference is, okay? So like I said, the difference is the difference between the front and the back half length. So the front half length is 20, the back half length is 18. 20 minus 18 is 2, right? So that is what I took off as the side bust dart, okay? So what I want to do now is close the dart. Closing the dart is not very difficult, so please just watch how I'm going to do it because I will not be able to explain this in the way you will understand as when you are watching what I'm actually doing, okay? So the line I'm going to slash is the line that is below the underbust point, okay? So I'm just going to slash through the line direct and then I'll have to overlap this part. But in order to do that, I have to open up one other dart, because remember, to close one you have to open another one so that you can transfer the tension or transfer the dart to the other parts. For that reason, I'll come over to the hem of the corset and open up the dart here. I'll just cut through the middle line. I'm not cutting off the suppression yet because there's still some work that has to be done around here, so don't cut off anything yet. The only thing we are going to be closing off is the side bust dart so that I can connect the new line for the actual body measurements. Okay, so after slashing this, I'm going to be able to place this one over the other without the paper squeezing up. So what I'm going to do next is grab a tape and then use the sellotape to hold down the side darts. So you guys can see that I did not cut off from the side. That is because I haven't joined the lines completely yet. That's the first reason. The second reason is because in most cases, after joining the side dart, the lines don't usually align. One is usually longer than the other one. Usually the one above is longer than the one below, but it can also be the other way around. So you have to blend that out. And also I haven't added the side seam allowance yet. So it's important to not cut off from the sides until after taking out the side bust dart. So I've used the sellotape to hold it down, and you can see that there's a gap here, right? So since I'm not done connecting the side points together, remember I've not connected to the under bust back to the chest line. So I'm just going to connect from this gap here to meet with the waistline, okay? So I'm just connecting it this way. I'll first of all connect to the under bust, from that gap to the under bust, then to the half length. Now you can see that everything even aligns in a straight line, so I do not need to do a zigzag line. So everything is connected now. It might be looking strange, but that is because of the side dart that was taken out. So the side front is being pushed out a bit, but after cutting up everything, you'll see that it's going to align properly. So I'm just blending out this edge so it doesn't look too sharp. After blending that out, the next thing to do is to draw out the corset cup. Remember that this is a cupped corset, so we haven't drawn out the cup yet. Whenever you're taking out the cup for a corset, you first of all have to come in from the center front by at least half of an inch. And this is usually done at the chest line. But because I want the corset to be a bit more modest, I want it to be covering properly, I'm going to come up from the chest line by 1 inch. I won't be drawing this line across, it's not necessary. So after coming up from the chest line by 1 inch, I will go in towards the center front by half of an inch. The minimum that you can go in by is ½ inch and the maximum is 1 inch, and this is going to be the guide for drawing the curve. But before I draw the curve for the center front of this pattern, what I have to do is to cross-check the difference in the curve between these two, the one towards the side front and the one towards the center front. Because if you observe what is here, you can see that the one towards the side front is longer than the one towards the center front. So you have to measure what you have on both sides and make up for the difference. If you don't replace the difference between the two curves, you notice that when you're joining the corset cup together, one is shorter than the other and you end up trimming off excess from the neckline. So it's very important that you do not skip this step. So when I measured the curve towards the side front, what I got was 10.75, and after measuring the curve towards the center front, I noticed that there was a difference, so I just added that difference to the upper part here, and then I use a ruler to connect everything together. So this is not going to affect the fitting of the corset. It's a necessary step to make sure that both of the corset cup fit. So from there, I'm going to connect this to the ½ of an inch, which I marked above the chest line. So before doing that, I went ahead to show you guys another alternative to making sure that both of the corset cup fit. So you can go ahead and fold in the pattern this way. making sure that the two dart points meet. And then whatever difference is there, you're going to mark it on the center front pattern. You can see that the one at the center front is shorter than the one towards the side front, so you just go ahead and mark the difference. But I do not really like following this method because the one towards the center front will still be shorter than the one towards the side front even after following this method, because majority of what is causing the difference in the two cup is the under bust area. The curve at the under bust for the side front is longer than the one towards the center front. So I decided to follow the other method and just extend the line by the difference between the two curves. And what I'm going to do now is to draw out the neckline. To be able to draw out a smooth neckline, I went ahead to first of all fold in this part again. So this is going to serve as a guide for obtaining a very smooth neckline. So I'll just use the French curve or the armhole curve to draw out the neckline for the corset. I will still go ahead and adjust that center front to make sure that the curve line is equal to the one at the side front. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and draw out the neckline. I connected the center front part to meet with the 1/2 inch mark first, and then I adjusted the curve a bit more to be able to draw the other side, which goes into the side front of the pattern. So by doing this, I've gotten a smooth curved line, and even if I end up extending the one for the center front, when I join them together, they will still fit right. So I've gone ahead to draw the neckline. What I'm going to do now is to extend this center front curve. Remember that the difference between the two of them was marked, but I haven't joined that yet. So I'm going to raise the center front cup by that difference. Okay, a bit of the difference had been taken off when drawing the neckline, so the remaining one that was not taken off is what is going to be connected back to the 1/2 inch point. And after doing that, I'll be able to mark out the cup for the center front. So when you're drawing out the curve, you have to make sure that you get a nice U kind of shape when drawing out the cup, so that the bust will be able to fit into the cup. You know that one thing I would definitely change if I want to redo this pattern is the 1/2 inch mark I took above the chest line. If I want to do this next time, I would actually go in by 0.75 inch instead of 1/2 inch, since this is for a big bust, so that it will be obvious, more obvious, the center line. Okay, so I'm saying this because the 1/2 inch I used, it was still okay, but I feel like it could have been a bit wider, so I recommend using 0.75 inch instead. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to mark the other cup, that's the one towards the side front. And to do this, you are going to need the measurement from the center of your client's bust to meet the side. So it's like measuring the half bust curve, and then that's what you are going to mark or measure. Another alternative, if you do not have that measurement, is to come in from the side by 1 inch or 1.2 inches. 1.2 inches is actually the standard. So from there, you'll be able to draw the curve. So one thing you need to note when drawing the curve for the side fronts is that it shouldn't cut into the armhole too much. Okay, so just pay attention to where I'm placing the ruler. Again, for this side, you have to make sure you're getting something like a kind of U curve when placing the ruler, and I just go ahead and draw out the curve for the side. Next thing to do now is the neckline. This is a Queen Anne neckline. A Queen Anne neckline usually go from here back to the neckline. So what you're just going to do is grab your ruler and connect from this point. You're going to connect from here to the neckline. just like this. This is the crinoline neckline. Okay, guys. So if you want to come out a bit more, you can definitely do that. I personally think I don't want it to be too close set. So I'm going to let me mark 1 inch first and see. And then let me see what this gives me. Okay, I think I prefer this because the 4 is better. I prefer this, so I'm going to use this instead. I'm going to take note of it when I am marking out my neckline for the back. I'm going to take note of that so that the both sides will align. I'll just take note that it is 4 that I took. Okay, so I'm also going to use 4 for the back neckline. So this is the crinoline neckline. Okay, so guys, what I'm going to do now is to draw out that overlapping thing. So after drawing out the crinoline neckline, the next thing that I want to do is trace out the overlapping crinoline neckline. According to the picture that was on the YouTube thumbnail, the crinoline neckline is actually overlapping, so it extends into the armhole a bit. I'm going to use another color of marker to first of all trace out this part. So this will extend back into the armhole this way, and it will just touch the side seam a bit as well. So this is what it's going to be looking like. What I'm going to do is grab another piece of pattern paper and trace what I have onto it, because I'm going to cut this pattern as it is, then the overlapping part will be right on top. Okay, so which means that the overlapping part is optional. I won't be cutting it out on this pattern. You understand better when you watch the sewing tutorial, which will be coming out next week. So like I said earlier, I'm going to retrace this. I'm able to do this because the pattern paper is a bit transparent. So if the pattern paper you are working with is not transparent, you go ahead and trace this out with your tracer. If you don't have a tracer, just grab a needle and then use the blunt end of the needle to transfer the pattern to another piece of paper. So this is what it is looking like after tracing this out. Note that this does not include any seam allowance yet, so I will be adding 1/2 inch seam allowance all round, but I won't be doing that in this video. So if in case you do not want to make this corset overlapping, you can go ahead and skip this process and just continue with the pattern illustration that I have been explaining for you guys. So I'm just going to keep this aside and move on to the next stage. So the next thing to do is to cinch the waist, but before I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the pattern. I will be cutting everything off except the side. Okay, so I'm cutting off the suppression that I took at the underbust, which extended to the corset line, and I am also cutting out this cup area. I'm not cutting everything out yet. I just want to cut out all of those parts that I will not be needing anymore. Please note that I will be switching between voiceover and using the audio in this video to make sure that you guys get the full explanation, because there are some things I explained better in the main video that I might not be able to redo using a voiceover. So please don't be upset when they switch from a voiceover to the actual audio in this video. So guys, before I continue cutting, what I need to do is to cinch the waist. To cinch the waist, I'm cinching a total of 3 inches from the waist. So I'm working with a waist 38. I intend to cinch the waist to say this is 35. I'm going to divide 35 into 4 and see what that gives me. The reason why I have not cut this part out is that I might end up adding the seam allowance for the side on the paper. So I know that the only one I'm going to add is the one at this side. So this is giving me a total of 8.75. I'm going to go ahead and measure that out, 8.75. Okay. And this is it. Make sure that both of the papers are at the same spot. So I'm going to mark it out. So I'm taking out a total of 0.75 inch on the front pattern paper and the back pattern paper as well. So what I want to do, because of how this side looks like, I would like to take it out from the side. I'm going to take it out from the side so that this side can balance. Okay. So I'm going to come and use my ruler to connect. So with that, I've balanced out the weird shape. So with this now, I've taken out a total of 1.5 inch from the front waist. So guys, sorry, I actually made a mistake. I meant to take out half of an inch. So I took out half of an inch from the side. As I've taken out half inch here, it means I've taken out half inch on both sides, which is equal to 1 inch. And I tend to cinch off 2 inches from the front and 1 inch from the back. So I've taken out 1 inch in total if I want to calculate this side and the other side, because this is on fold. So to take out the other 1 inch which is left, what I'll need to do is take out half inch here, so that half inch will reflect on the other side, which will give me a total of 1 inch. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is to come and divide what I have left by 2. I want to form another style line, that is why. Okay. So this is another style line I'm forming. You can decide to make it slant or straight. So I'm going to make this one a bit slant, but not too much. It won't even be that obvious by the time I'm done. Okay. So this is the new style line, another style line which I have formed. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and mark 0.25 on both sides, which is going to be a total of half inch taken out. And I'm just going to connect this back. Remember, these orange lines are representing the new lines that have been formed. Okay. And I'm going to let this stop at the under bust, because you don't want to take out of the under bust, right? If you do that, you are going to cut out of your under bust measurements. So I'm going to come and stop the dart directly at the under bust. So guys, this is everything. I'm going to use a red marker to illustrate. I'm going to end up taking out marking out the seam allowance on the actual fabric. So this is me explaining that I took out half of an inch from the side. The main reason why I actually took it out at the side is because of the shape it's giving. The shape was not really straight, so I just like to take out half of an inch from the waist here so that it will blend in a bit. Then I took in a total of another half inch, so this is equal to 1 inch for this side, 1 inch for this side, which is equals to 2 inches. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. When I'm transferring to fabric, I will add the seam allowance so that it's not confusing when I draw out the seam allowance on the pattern paper, because I've made a lot of alteration to the pattern already. Okay. So at this point, you can actually decide to curve this side. I forgot to do that. Let me do that now. Although it's not compulsory, but it gives a better fitting. So you just curve from here, curve it back into the corset length. Okay. Right. You can decide to cut this out separately, or you can leave it like this. So guys, this is it for the front. This is everything for the front. I'm going to keep it aside. And for this one, I won't be cutting it out yet. I prefer to add the seam allowance to the pattern paper for this one than to cut it out and then add it to the fabric. So I'm just going to wrap this in this one and then move on to drafting the back. I'm going to draft the back basic bodice off camera and then explain it to you guys. So guys, I've gone ahead to draft the basic bodice block off camera. So remember that for the front, I did not add dart allowance. For this back, I added the dart allowance, okay? And then for this front, remember that for the front, I came up from the chest line by 3 inches to be able to draw the curve. But for the back, to draw the armhole curve, you're just going to measure what you have and divide it into two, and then from that point, you're going to come in by half of an inch. So note that for the back, the shoulder slants will remain 1 inch. Okay. Remember that for the front, after marking out the normal 1 inch shoulder slope, I came down by an extra half of an inch, but I did not replace it. Please take note, I did not replace it, and that's just how it's going to be so that the both sides can align properly. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the armhole curve. Just like that. Okay. So guys, I've also gone ahead to mark out the neck point. Remember that for the front pattern, we ended up coming in by about 4 inches. So we want to make sure that both sides align. So what you want to do to confirm is to just place the both of them like this and see what you have. Can you see? Okay, I can see that this is a bit more by like 0.1. So I'm going to mark that. Okay, so that when you join both shoulders together, the both of them together, it will not give you issues. Next thing I'm going to do is to just in case, just leave it there. This might not even be useful in the end. Okay, I'm just marking that out. So like I said, I added 1 inch dart allowance to the waist. This back is very simple. All you need to do is take out the dart and create the space for the loop. From the chest line, I'm going to come up by 1 inch. I'm coming up by 1 inch so that the back will not be too exposed. Okay, I'm going to come up by 1 inch. Next thing I'm going to do is to create the space for looping the back. If you don't create enough space for looping the back, you will not be able to cinch the waist properly. So I'm going to use 3.5 inch, or say 3 inches. I'm going to choose between one of the two. Okay, and then for the waist, you're going to come and mark 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches. You can actually take 3 all the way down, but you know that there are some corsets that when you look the back, the upper part is bigger than the lower part. Is because they do not mark out the same thing everywhere. Okay, you can even decide to just place the ruler like this from the 3 inch to the 2 inch, and then whatever you have at the down is fine. Okay, so this is going to be taken out. This will be for loops. The circle is meant to be inside, but let's just be please don't mind my circles. Let it just be on the outer side so it does not interfere with the actual side we are working with. So this is going to be a loop in the end. This is going to be a loop. Okay, this side will be looped. So guys, this dart line does not even matter. I actually should have not even drawn it in the first place. What I'm going to do now is divide this waist by 2, and what I have is 4.2. I'm going to divide what you have by 2. Actually, what I'm going to do is to first of all mark out 1.5 inch. I'm going to mark out 1.5 inch first of all from the waist. This is because this is going to be the eyelet space. Okay, this is going to be the eyelet space, and then whatever I have left, I'm going to divide it into 2. You can decide to make the line straight, you can decide to make it slant. I'm just going to make mine a little, okay, if I take it slant, it's going to be taking a lot from here. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it straight instead. Okay, so I'm going to just take it straight instead. You can decide to slant it, but I don't want it to go into the armhole at all. And I'm going to draw a straight line from top to bottom. So remember, I added 1/2 inch dart allowance, and I'm cinching off a total of 1 inch. 1 inch, that is this side half, the other side half. So which means that if I want to take off that half from this side, I'm going to be taking 0.25 here and 0.25 here. So I'm going to add that 0.25 to the dart. I'm going to add a 1/2 inch allowance to the dart of 1 inch that I'm taking from this side, which is going to be a total of 1.5. So 1.5 divided by 2 will give me 0.75 inch on both sides. So with this, I've taken out the dart allowance and I've also cinched the waist. The reason why I made sure that I added the dark allowance is because the back is slopey. So you guys, there's a mistake in this thing, and I do not want to redraft this pattern paper and then start all over again. So remember that the back half length is 19, the front half length is 19, so the back half length is 17. I'm going to leave this, I'm not going to edit this out, so now you guys will learn from my mistake and also understand that mistakes are bound to happen. This does not really change much actually. All I will have to do is to retake what I have here and bring it here. Sorry, what I have here in total 10.5. And bring it here. Okay, so please don't be confused. Don't be confused at all. I understand that when people watch tutorials, they expect everything to go perfectly, but I also don't like to hide mistakes so that other people can learn from it as well. And like I feel like making mistakes also make the learning process faster, because remember that this person made this mistake, don't make this mistake. Okay, so because there's a difference in the back half length and the front half length, you're going to mark the back half length first, which is 17. Okay, I'm going to use a red marker to cancel. So you're going to mark the difference between the front and the back half length. You're going to mark it out. So this is now going to be the blouse length. And then remember that I came up from here, from the front by 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is come and measure it. It's better to measure than to just come up by that 1 inch. So I be sure that both sides align. So this is 14.75. I'm also going to come here and find that 14.75. Okay, just to confirm, I'm going to go over it again, because remember we took side dart, so that side dart can have a little bit of impact on the side later. So I confirmed it, and it is, so I cross-checked it, and it is actually 14 and a half. So I'm going to mark 14 and a half. In the end is that exact 1 inch. So I'm going to come and also curve it back. Okay, so guys, this is it. You're going to mark the back half length, and then after marking the full blouse length, you're going to cut off the difference between the front half length and the back half length from this side. All right guys, so I can just decide to cut this off like this, no big deal. So this is the difference between the front half length and the back half length. Okay, back half length. I really hope that nobody is confused because of the little mistake I made here. So as I was saying, I said that we are going to divide this side into two, which I have already done, and then mark 0.75 inch on both sides. So this 0.75 inch is the allowance plus the amount I'm cinching off. I'm going to first of all connect this to the hemline. Okay, and then normally a dart for the back is to be connected to the chest line. So because I extended this chest line, I'm just going to connect it to the line I extended it by. This will also help with tightening the back. Okay, so this is it. This is the dart I'm going to be cutting off. Okay, so now I'm not, because of the way the back is a clean hand neckline, I can't do the normal neck with a button at the side here, you know, like I did with my last video on an inbuilt corset. So what I'm going to do, from this point I'm going to connect it back. So I'm going to connect from here straight into this. Okay, this is going to be cut off and joined back separately. You can, okay, so that is it. You can even decide to curve it. After coming like this, you just curve it a bit. Let me try using a curve ruler and see how it looks like. Just have to make sure that you're not taking off from here, but you can curve it a bit. Okay, so you just know that this is stopping exactly where this stops. So this is everything for the back, guys. This is everything for the back. I've created the space for lacing. I've cinched the waist and taken out the darts. That is all. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out now. So guys, I decided to cut off the front. So this has to be labeled front yoke, back yoke. So this is middle front, side front, side cup, center cup, side back, center back. Okay, it's very important that you label it. Down, 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 down. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all of this out on the fabric, making sure that when you are cutting out, you add seam allowance here, seam allowance here, seam allowance at this top, this top part as well, this side. This will be cut and fold. This will be cut and fold. If you are cutting individually, add seam allowance all around the cup, all around here. I'm going to add seam allowance all around the yoke as well, and then seam allowance here at the side. I'm going to cut it and show you guys actually. All right, so this is everything for the video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Also subscribe so you get notified when I upload the sewing tutorial for this pattern coming up next week Friday. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.